If something isn't documented correctly, Winter's hand froze mid-motion, her pencil hovering over the page. Her voice dropped to a whisper, as if sharing a secret too dangerous to speak aloud. Dad says mistakes contaminate the evidence, and contaminated evidence ruins the plan. She paused, her young face tightening with seriousness. Last week, I forgot to record what Mom was wearing during drop-off. Dad made me stay in the library for 3 hours practicing observation techniques. Merritt glanced down at her phone, another message from Kevin lighting up the screen, noticed Winter's shoelaces were asymmetrical at last pickup. Documenting parental neglect of basic presentation standards. Dr. Blackwood concluded the therapy session, but Winter remained focused on her drawing, meticulously adding minute details to what she called the evidence library. Each stroke of her pencil revealed more of Kevin's systematic obsession, the charts tracking Merritt's every move, the surveillance schedules, the color-coded filing system cataloging every perceived transgression. As Merritt prepared to collect her daughter, Dr. Blackwood pulled her aside. "This goes beyond traditional parental alienation," she said firmly. Kevin's obsessive documentation and participation in surveillance activities constitute emotional abuse. Winter's increasing display of compulsive behaviors is a direct response to his conditioning. Merritt nodded, watching as Winter carefully packed away the drawing supplies, aligning each pencil into perfect parallels. "Can you document everything for the court?" she asked. "I've already begun, but Merritt," Dr. Blackwood hesitated, her expression grave. "His pattern suggests escalation. The more evidence we gather against him, the more desperate his documentation might become." Merritt's phone lit up again with one final message from Kevin, reviewing Winter's therapy sessions. Notice concerning lack of structural discipline in Dr. Blackwood's office. Investigating her professional background for potential negligence patterns. The systematic destruction of Merritt's life was expanding, now targeting anyone who might help her. But as she watched Winter carefully straightening the dollhouse furniture one last time, Merritt realized they had gained something crucial: documented evidence of Kevin's psychological manipulation, recorded by a professional witness. Now, they just had to survive his reaction to being documented himself. The incident at Winter's parent-teacher conference marked a critical escalation in Kevin's systematic campaign. Miss Eleanor Feinstein, Winter's third-grade teacher, had arranged the meeting to discuss concerning changes in Winter's academic performance, particularly her increasingly rigid approach to assignments. Merritt arrived early, finding Winter's latest mathematics test displayed on Miss Feinstein's desk. Every calculation was written with mechanical precision, but the margins contained something far more revealing: elaborate tracking systems monitoring the exact time spent on each problem. "Winter has developed an unusual preoccupation with documentation," Miss Feinstein explained, pointing to the marginal notes. "She refuses to submit any assignment without recording multiple data points about her completion process." Kevin arrived precisely on schedule, carrying a leather briefcase filled with his own documentation. "I've prepared a comprehensive analysis of Winter's academic performance," he announced, extracting color-coded folders. "I've identified concerning patterns in her homework completion rates since living primarily with her mother." Miss Feinstein attempted to redirect the conversation. "I'm actually more concerned about Winter's emotional state. Yesterday, she experienced significant distress when another student disturbed her perfectly aligned pencils." "Proper organization is essential," Kevin interjected, producing a graph. "I've tracked the correlation between structural discipline and academic success. Winter's performance metrics clearly declined during her time with Merritt." The discussion shifted dramatically when Miss Feinstein presented Winter's latest creative writing assignment. The story, titled The Watching Room, described a father's obsessive documentation of his ex-wife's activities, told through the eyes of a frightened child. Kevin's reaction was immediate and severe. This assignment represents unstructured thinking. It requires immediate correction. He began pulling out more documents, photographs of Merritt's house, detailed schedules of her work hours, transcripts of recorded conversations. "Mr. Thorne," Miss Feinstein interrupted, "this level of surveillance documentation is highly irregular." "Everything must be documented," Kevin insisted, though his carefully maintained composure began to crack. Merritt's influence is corrupting Winter's understanding of proper methodology. "Look at these infraction patterns." As Kevin spread more surveillance photos across the desk, Winter entered the classroom for her portion of the conference. Upon seeing her father's documentation displayed, she froze, then began arranging his papers into precise geometric patterns, her hands trembling. "Winter has an assessment rubric for today," Kevin announced, reaching for his briefcase. "We need to document her responses for the evidence library." The term evidence library triggered an immediate response in Winter. She began reciting dates and times of Merritt's supposed infractions, her voice taking on a mechanical quality. Miss Feinstein watched in growing concern as Winter's behavior shifted to mirror her father's obsessive documentation patterns. Merritt attempted to intervene. "Winter, sweetheart, you don't need to." Interference with documentation protocols, Kevin interrupted, making a note in his ever-present logbook. Merritt consistently undermined structured observation requirements. Winter's distress escalated as she struggled to maintain her father's demanding documentation standards. When she misaligned one of the papers, her anxiety peaked. "Dad, I'm sorry. I'll fix the angle. Please don't make me stay in the library tonight." The implications of the statement caused Miss Feinstein to immediately contact the school's counselor and Child Protective Services. Kevin's response was to produce additional folders of evidence, including detailed analyses of Winter's behavioral patterns at both households. Merritt observed silently as the school officials documented Kevin's behavior, noting his obsessive need to control and record every aspect of the conference. His carefully constructed facade began to crack under professional scrutiny, revealing the extent of his psychological manipulation. The meeting concluded with the school counselor requesting an immediate psychological evaluation for Winter and expressing serious concerns about Kevin's influence on her development. Kevin's response was to begin documenting everyone present, adding their names to his ever-growing surveillance network. As they left the conference, Merritt received a message from Kevin: "School staff now added to investigation parameters. Their interference will be thoroughly documented and addressed." Winter walked beside Merritt, her steps carefully measured. "Dad's going to add this to the timeline wall," she whispered. "It's going to take up a lot of red squares." Merritt's phone buzzed with another message, this time from Dr. Blackwood: "School report received. Documentation of Kevin's behavior during conference provides crucial evidence of psychological abuse. Moving forward. Ask explain." Oh. There was an issue connecting to Quen 2.5 Max. Network error, 502.